India and Pakistan will formally join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the SCO, at a summit in Kazakhstan tomorrow. While membership brings some gains for India, the presence of Pakistan and China could present major challenges and pressures.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi packs his bags for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Astana, Kazakhstan, there are twin conflicting narratives about how it affects India. Those in favour say India can benefit from the SCO's anti-terrorism expertise. It will get access to information about terror groups, drugs trafficking and cyber security. India can benefit from SCO military exercises. It will bring together the Indian and Pakistani militaries on a rare platform to exchange ideas. And it could help India minimize the intensity of China-Pakistan ties. But critics say SCO is a China-dominated grouping. India will come under pressure to resolve its issues with Pakistan on Pakistan's terms. India's views on terrorism will be at odds with Pakistan and China. India's views on regional and global issues may conflict with the rest of the group. And India cannot count on Russian support as that country is heavily dependent on China. The SCO is aligned with China's ambitious multi-billion-dollar Belt and Road project. India refuses to be part of that project because the Pakistan leg, called CPEC, passes through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Membership of SCO may not relax China's opposition to India entering the nuclear suppliers group or allow India to get the United Nations to sanction Jaish terrorist Masood Azhar. China has twice vetoed India's move to get him proscribed. India will find itself isolated on the issue of not talking to the Afghan Taliban. Russia and China, helped by Pakistan, are busy building bridges with the Taliban. In fact, Pakistan's membership of the group, which also happens on Thursday, could be detrimental to the future of the group. Bureau Report, WION.
So what really is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization? The SCO was set up in June 2001 by China, Russia and 3 Central Asian states. It is primarily a security grouping with heads of state meeting every year. There is exchange of intelligence and members hold joint military exercises. It has evolved to cover economic cooperation. The SCO has only 2 languages, Russian and Chinese. Joining us, Ainar Thangan, political and economic commentator from Beijing, Professor Swaran Singh from the School of International Studies at JNU in New Delhi. Good evening to both of you. Good to have you both on the show. Ainar, we're trying to understand what the SCO is, and maybe you can shed some more light. Is it a club of authoritarian leaders, presidents for life?
I don't think so. If Narendra Modi is joining, and if you look at the makeup of it, I think that would be not a good description. What it is simply what it stands for, and that is an organization that works by consensus. Nothing can be passed through the SCO unless all members agree. So this is the kind of new hallmark. It's a sharp departure from the kind of idea of American corporate winner-take-all type of situation where a majority of votes could force somebody into doing something. This is the new way in which I think China is proposing, very much based on Eastern philosophy, that things should be done by consensus, everyone agreeing. If you cannot agree, you simply do not bring it up.
Right. Taha Siddiqui, our Islamabad Bureau Chief, is also joining us. Good evening, Taha. And Swaran Singh, I want to, here's a corollary of my first question to Ainar Thangan. None of the countries which are currently the members have had a half-decent election except, paradoxically, Pakistan.
Yes, it's true that India's entry to Shanghai Cooperation Organization brings both enormous opportunities but also challenge to maneuverability and finesse of Indian diplomacy. Shanghai Cooperation Organization today is one of the most potent organizations in terms of regional organizations. This is now, with the entry of India and Pakistan, going to represent about 40% of the whole humanity, about 20% of global GDP, and about 60% of Eurasian supercontinent, which both 19th and 20th century geopolitical thinkers have described as the center of human universe, saying that those who rule Eurasia will rule the rest of the world. So it has also been one of the most successful organizations in achieving its objectives. But as we already know, and you have mentioned in your program before, India is in some ways standing isolated here, because in the most recent initiative of China, Belt and Road Initiative, all countries that are going to participate, whether they are observers or they are dialogue partners or special invitees, they're all on board on China's BRI initiative.
Would you say the disadvantages outweigh the benefits? And why is India joining them?
I wouldn't say that, because India's on stature has to be also considered seriously. India is today the fastest growing economy, largest booming class on planet, middle class on planet. It's also largest economy in China's neighborhood. So I wouldn't underestimate India's potential to contribute to success of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But we also understand that Pakistan has China as its all-weather friend, and lately Russia has also become much close to Pakistan. So Pakistan would have a certain advantage in joining Shanghai Cooperation Organization compared to India. But India has its own strengths. So I think it's going to be both advantages and disadvantages, but how we manage our diplomacy will decide whether our advantages will be more over our disadvantages.
Taha, the domestic press both in India and Pakistan would be focusing largely on the possibility of a meeting of the two prime ministers on the sidelines. What are your sources in the Pakistan Foreign Office saying? What do they expect?
Well, basically, we do know that the Pakistani side definitely wants to reach out to the Indian side, and given the fact that there's been sort of a deadlock for a long time now, and the Indians are avoiding to meet Pakistan, and there has been no bilateral meeting. Given all of that, the Foreign Office gave out a statement yesterday in which they said that basically they are welcoming this step of the being included in the SCO, and also at the same time they want to act in the spirit of the SCO, what it was formed for, which is basically having long-term goals in the region of cooperation and bringing the region and the regional countries and the regional powers together. So that's sort of a hint towards, from what I'm hearing from the Foreign Office, is that they're hinting towards China's involvement in bringing Pakistan and India together, and maybe because of that, and we do know that from Prime Minister's side, if you remember, there was a meeting, with Pakistan. The Prime Minister wants to really have on the sidelines of these sort of summits, a meeting with the Indian side, and he really wants to reach out, from what I gather from when I talk to the Pakistani civilian leadership. So definitely, from what we understand, they will definitely try to reach out to the Indian side, but it depends on how the Indian side would respond, and that is the big question right now.
Einar Tangan, we're looking at the entire club. What do countries like Kyrgyzstan and Turkmenistan bring to the table here?
Well, quite frankly, there's two aspects of this. There's trade, which is represented by the Belt and Road Initiative, or OBOR, as some people refer to it. And then there's security. What we're really talking about here is whether or not the assembled countries believe that terrorism is the #1 threat that is facing all of these countries. And unless there is cooperation among these countries, terrorism will have pockets where they can breed, where groups are not paying attention to what they're doing. So I do think this is a win-win situation in terms of security. I don't think it's a bad thing for Pakistan and India and China and all the rest to have dialogue. I think that's really the only alternative, unless you consider war or beating the war drum an acceptable way of having diplomacy.
Swaran Singh, you said it's going to be a challenge for Indian diplomacy. Would it help if Iran and Afghanistan joined at the earliest?
I think that's the next thing going to be under discussion. In fact, last year also, at their summit meeting, membership of Iran was proposed by Russia, but that time it was not accepted by Chinese. Hopefully this will be again on agenda this time. And that shows that Shanghai Cooperation Organization is not only expanding to South Asia, but will also be expanding to West Asia, which really expands its geopolitical footprint in a very, very interesting manner. And United States is going to be also impacted by this expansion. If you remember, in 2005, United States along with India and Pakistan had also been under consideration for observer status, but it was summarily denied at that time. So in that sense, it's an organization which brings in lots of opportunities as being a very potent organization. It has secretariat, it has regional terrorist structure in Uzbekistan, it has biannual military exercises. So it fundamentally provides a larger platform.
Is it an Eastern NATO, Swaran Singh? What does it compare
extremism. Indeed, they had signed in 2007 something called CSTO, which was seen as a response to NATO, but they have repeatedly clarified that they are not going to emerge as a military alliance. Nevertheless, they will be coordinating their armed forces, and they hold biannual counter-terrorism exercises. And India and Pakistan would be participating in it next year when it happens. So it clearly opens up tremendous opportunities and a platform where India can showcase its, as I said, diplomatic finesse and capabilities and experience. And it will also be a platform where Pakistan will have to answer several questions, even if it is sitting among friends. But remember, there are overall 21 countries, 8 members, now 4 observers, 6 dialogue partners and 3 special invitees. So it's not only going to be a small coterie of China and few Central Asian republics with Pakistan, it's a larger group. And in a larger group, I think we are going to have India's voice gradually heard over a period of time. Entry of Iran would be a good news for India. So in that sense, I think it's a great platform, very, very mature organization with several mechanisms in which these countries operate. And India will use each of these mechanisms, whether it is business council or bank, interbank networks, or it is foreign ministers meeting. There are enormous amount of mechanisms that India can use to put across its point of view and bring about its weight and its contribution to SCO.
Okay, Taha, I'm nearly out of time, but I want to quickly ask you, what specifically is Pakistan looking at, apart from the India dimension? What does it expect to achieve in this club?
Well, as we've seen that the whole, that One Belt, One Road sort of phenomena and the China-Pakistan economic corridor, that Pakistan is expecting more than $50 billion of investment. So it's a continuation of that. Basically, Pakistan in the last couple of years, that alliance it had with the US, with the West, that has waned and that has weakened. So in that sense, Pakistan is looking for new partners and new investments. And given the fact that Pakistan has always been dependent on foreign aid and foreign money to run its own economy because of the situation in the country, this sort of will be an avenue for Pakistan to use China further for its own benefits in that way, that it will, for the economic trade and build on that China-Pakistan economic corridor that we're already seeing happening in the country.
Right. Ainar Thangan, Professor Swaran Singh, Taha Siddiqui, many thanks to all of you for joining this edition of Gravitas. And finally, his face covered in blood and dust in the aftermath of an airstrike in Aleppo became the sign of the Syrian crisis a year ago. 12 months on, these pictures of Omran Dakhnish give a ray of hope in an otherwise strife-torn Syria. We're leaving you with this. Thanks very much for watching.